Thank you for joining me again on TMI Tuesday. And let's point, we're looking at the economic implications of the coronavirus scare, otherwise known as COVID-19. And the aspect where the doctor did say that, well, coronavirus is not strange to us, it's been with us. But this kind of novel coronavirus is strange, whereby we have to find a way around it in developing a vaccine in order to deactivate or make it inactive. Well, discussing the economic implications away from medicine. With me at my extreme left, I have an economy expert. He is a lecturer in University of Benin, and he goes by the name Dr. Nosahai Ikmamusa. Thank you very much for coming, Dr. Nosahai.
Thank you for having me on your program.
And I don't think it would be wrong to do a handshake.
Not at all.
It's not at all. All right. So next to him, we have an educationist. He is an executive director of African Emancipation Project, and he is the president of Association for Formidable Educational Development Affairs, Osagie Godsend Eruse. Thank you for coming, Osagie.
Good morning, Phil. Good morning, viewers. My pleasure again.
And again, Osagie Godsend Eruse is a social media influencer, and basically social media platforms are GOG, and you can also find a way to sharpen the discussion today by raising questions in this respect. Well, I start with you. First, Osagie Godsend Eruse. The scare, coronavirus, how did you receive it in Nigeria?
In fact,
I'm not saying how did you receive it. I mean the news.
Yes, the news, because I'm not even the suspect.
For now.
Anyway, it came to me with mixed feelings. I was thinking between this coronavirus and Ebola, which one is more dreaded? That was the first thing that came to my head. Because the world is becoming quite frightening these days. The first thing is I wanted to shake a colleague or a friend when I traveled over the weekend, and he said, hey, coronavirus. It has gone to a point where everybody is becoming scared of each other. But be that as it may, again, part of my fear is about the strength of our health sector to combat the diseases. Today, even advanced nations are finding it difficult to be able to, stop the spread and contain it. And part of the fear I have is if this were to come to Africa, my own country, Nigeria is said to be one of the weakest countries in terms of our health sector today, globally. So if this was to come in, like the case in Italy and China, I'm just wondering how many persons will be left in this country. Those are part of my concerns, and hence it is important the federal government, as a matter of urgency, put measures in place to contain the spread.
Okay, but looking at what the federal government is doing and having meeting with stakeholders in the airport industry and also rolling out measures in order to protect, to kind of monitor and screen those at entry at airports, isn't that laudable?
Yes, that is
scorecard for the government.
Yes, that is quite laudable. Let me also give it to the federal government the way they also tackle the Ebola thing, So I think if such measures are also proactive measures are put in place, it's going to be really helpful. But there is also the issue of database, which I think the relevant health practitioners must be more very proactive, very, very sensitive to. Because if you recall, the federal government is still trying to trace some of the persons that the Italian that brought it into Nigeria had contact with. You see, this brings us to the issue of we must begin to look at having accurate database. I heard the doctor talking about the fact that some patients give false information when they go to the hospital. But again, what came to my mind was security issues. These days you are surprised on how your information goes out. It's not only with the patient, the doctors, the hospitals have to look at, this whole information. Like I was privileged to hear of a security issue some years back where it was traceable to the hospital. How at the end of the day the police was able to uncover the fact that this person's information was gotten when he went for treatment. You see, so there are many factors. In Nigeria today, we don't even trust our systems and institutions. because of security issues. So hearing such information some years back, so if I go to any medical center to seek treatment, I'll be more careful and have some more reserves. You know, and again, some of these, sometimes it's not as if these informations are deliberately leaked out. They're careless handling. You know, some of our hospitals today are still not digitalized. Things are still done manually. You know, so there are a lot of factors that leads to this. And sadly, this is what we are suffering today. The federal government is still trying to trap or track those that got contact with these people.
Yeah, the co-passenger, about 158 as reports have it today.
So it shows that we have a problem with our database. So we have to begin to look at that again, because that is one loophole, that one major disease can just enter the whole of Africa and we are gone.
Oh, well, I don't think it will get to that extent. I think that's why
if not tackled,
researchers are working around the clock to bring about developments in vaccines in order to trace that. Well, that's a little bit away from the narrative of this segment, but we have an economy expert here. And Doctor, let's look at the aspect where there are implications already coming around it over the crude oil price that is falling. Could this mean a global recession?
Thank you for your question. Of course, the COVID-19 has a lot of their consequences for global economy. The World Bank and a whole lot of other institutions have had to review the projections for world growth by over 50%. Because if you look at what is happening presently, China is a major importer of crude oil. So the lockdown of the Chinese economy, a significant portion of it have led to a reduction in the demand for the price of crude. And of course, once there is a fall or a drop in demand, chances are that prices will drop. And exactly that is what we have experienced. So the price of crude oil has actually nosedived.
But I don't understand that aspect where it drops. You said China is a major player.
A major consumer.
A major consumer.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let's look at that narrative. And let's look at the aspect where how it affects conferences, how it affects businesses. How does that apply?
Basically, businesses have had to shut down their production base because they want to protect their employees. You understand? Okay. So when you shut down, when you shut your factory, for instance, and you ask your employees to stay at home, of course, you also, it implies that you reduce your consumption of your raw materials, you reduce consumption of crude oil, which we are discussing in this particular instance. If you don't produce, it means you will not go out of your way to place demand. And of course, once there is a fall in demand, that will also reduce the price of the particular commodity in question. And you know, some countries are net importers of crude oil, while some countries are net exporter. In Nigeria, is a particular, we find ourselves in a particular situation where we depend largely on crude revenue from crude oil. So that's the challenge before us as of now.
Okay, we'll look at the issues about the benchmark for budget 2020 as placed by the federal government. Now, we have that move from $57 per barrel to $51.9 per barrel as we have it now. What are the implications in this budget?
The implication is that if the COVID-19 persists by way of, if the spread globally continues, definitely the crude oil will continue to nosedive. So that will mean that Nigeria will not be able to realize enough earnings.
So we have a deficit budget.
Exactly. So we are actually faced with deficit budgets, which will now call on us to embark on what we call deficit financing. And historically in Nigeria, deficit financing normally means that we just go ahead and borrow, both in terms of domestic
should it always be to borrow? Are there not other ways? I'll come back to you. Osage got sent. He just said it, and I was thinking about it in my mind. Should we always go out to borrow if we have a deficit budget?
Let me begin by saying that in the case of Nigeria, is laughable because we have been borrowing. What we are borrowed for is not getting better. Let me quickly say this. We have too much money to be borrowing. Even if there is a reduction in the global oil price, we have too much money to still be borrowing. I dare say this because there are 2-3 observations. If you observe, you discover that yes, we have too much money. Currently, it is said that Nigeria maintains the highest cost of governance in the world. You know, now that is a nation that is saying we don't have money. See, I've always said on different platforms, our problem is not money, it's wastage. We are being wasteful. Then just last year, I think the FAS came up and talked about they had the highest generation of its internal revenue, running into billions. Okay, now again, let me also take your mind back that there are also some reasons for which we have borrowed in the past, which we have tried, the government have tried to whip us sentiment, and at the end of the day, the House of Assembly and the common man will say, okay, is it not for security? Is it not for this? Is it not for healthcare? Borrow now. But today, are those things better or they are worse off? So the whole idea of any government thinking of, we'll go and borrow if they are deficit or if we can't foot our budget, is laughable. Because it's no longer trendy. It's no longer going to appeal to Nigerians. Because we have been borrowing over the years, nothing is happening. And before our very eyes, we are being wasteful. You know what it means to manage some of the private jets of these politicians? You know what it means to, just recently, it has been on the media for some time, you know, the budget for cars for our senators, our saving senators. Now these are and even rep members. These are honorable members that already have exotic cars. We are still allotting billions of naira, the highest by you know, analysis, so to speak.
So what you are saying is that instead of borrowing,
we should look inside.
We should look inwards. There are
a lot of leakages, which the government should block.
I'll come back to you. You looking at it from the economic point perception or perspective.
Yes.
Do you concur?
Yes, I subscribe to what he has said as far as fiscal indiscipline is concerned. Really, any person calling for fiscal discipline in Nigeria really means well for Nigeria, no doubt about that. Having said that, we should also know that deficit financing in itself, it's not a bad thing in quotes. Because when an economy is in a recession, you need deficit financing to actually expand and start the process of economic growth and development. Like you rightly pointed out, we must not always seek the path of least resistance by just going to borrow.
Yeah. So what other options would be made available? Like he made mention of the fact of
fiscal discipline.
Taking a look at fiscal discipline, and maybe in the aspect of the allowances and salaries, because that's where his mind was going. Yeah. Allowances and salaries that are given to National Assembly members and even the executive. Are you saying that that should be the way forward?
True. That discussion has been on for a long time, and a lot of people actually share such sentiments, including me. Having said that, even if we are highly disciplined, or if the government decides to be disciplined, it's very easy to do. It's just that government do not have the willpower to do it, and we know some of the reasons behind this. For instance, politicians see the national treasury as an opportunity for them to enrich themselves and give kickback to their political allies. In fact, we have a lot of political entrepreneurs in modern day Nigerian politics. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
But even if all is well with our economy, we will still have instances where we run into the need for deficit financing. And if you look at Nigeria, we actually have a whole lot of lofty plans, lofty projects and ideas. For instance, in Nigeria, there's what we call the Sovereign Wealth Fund that was introduced during the President Goodluck Jonathan's administration in 2011, 2012. Okay. You know. The Sovereign Wealth Fund in Nigeria actually is broken down into three baskets. There's the Infrastructure Fund, there's the Future Generation Fund, and then you have the Fiscal Stabilization Fund. That particular basket is meant to cushion the effect of fiscal deficits. For instance, if there's a drop in oil revenue and in a particular year we are not able to realize our expected revenue, we are supposed to fall back to that stabilization fund to cushion the effect, to enable us to survive through those lean years.
Okay,
but the question
do
is,
we have it?
We do have it, but have we been funding it in years where we have fiscal surplus? That boils down to the issue of indiscipline that we have been talking about.
Okay, I want to, because there's this huge plan or action on the plans of the federal government to diversify the economy. Don't you think that is also working out, like in the area of agricultural produce, closing the borders to allow indigenous trade in terms of rice production to have a boost, and amongst others? Don't you see that as another way of kind of creating a balance in this aspect for the federal government?
Yes, let me begin by saying that, you know, the Nigerian government or experts have never been deficient of good ideas. If you look at a lot of our policies, both in education, economics, and what have you, they are sound policies. And even some other nations come to borrow from our policies. But at the end of the day, things get worse instead of getting better. You see, that's the reason why I said, by the rule of business, I'm into business. There's nothing wrong with borrowing. It's a credit word. Sometimes you need money to push up, to step up your game. Okay, but when a nation start going for fund in order to fund its overhead costs, is clueless. It shows that the government of the day is clueless. When we spend money to spend more, when we get money to spend more on recurrent expenditures, not the capital expenditures, then it shows that we have a clueless government. And that has been the narrative of our nation over the years. Fine, if the borders are closed, diversification is something that any sane Nigeria is going to lend its voice to, because this so-called oil is becoming more or less like a cost.
And a lot has been gained as a result of closing the border.
Yes, a lot has been gained.
The land border.
Fine, you know, Phil, when you talk about analysis, that sometimes we have to begin to get home to the roots. How has it affected the system? You know, what is the price in the market? I know the economists may say it doesn't always start like that. I was hearing somebody giving that. But at the end of the day, how does it affect our lives? Okay, now, so much have been budgeted on security. I think if there is anything that should be done, if there is any border that should be closed, it's the many porous borders we have in the Northeast. Because no matter what you do to jiggle up the economy, if there is no security, there's going to be sabotage at the end of the day. Okay, why we keep on saying, fine, this has to be closed, fine, the border closure have its own benefit, but it also have its own disadvantage. Everything that has a positive side has a negative side. But the point is, what is the government doing to ensure that the loopholes are blocked? The problem we have is not generating funds. Look at the new VAT rate we have. You know, if you use your phone now, you will get an SMS VAT charges. Look at the new, is it NEMPA or PHCN VAT rate, and all kind of increase you have from everywhere. Now it's giving more money for the federal government. How are this money spent? How are they allotted? At the end of the day, they're going to funding election, so that the certain political party will win the election. At the end of the day, they're going to wastage. If you look at the last election, the number of, you look at the amount, billions that was wasted in some of the ballot paper that were printed compared to the eligible voters. I mean, it just shows that we really don't know how to manage fund. At the end of the day, when you compare it, you discover that there was so much wasted on printing ballot papers, where we did not even have that amount of eligible voters. Then you start asking yourself some pertinent question. I've heard an expert do an analysis on that. You know, our problem is more of waste than money. This country generates a lot, even from our own internal generated revenues. You know, just last year we saw a boost, and this year you can see the tax drive. Okay. In fact, some of us are even of the opinion that there is so much multiple taxation and levies currently in the state and in the country at large. Okay. But yet, where does this money go to? Into the pockets of the few. So that is more of the problem we have than let's look for money or something. For me, it's not about let's look for money. It's about management.
Thank you. There's this fear again that this coronavirus could also land us some challenge in the issue of our foreign exchange reserve. Is that possible?
Yes, of course, it's possible, because once there is a fall in the price of crude oil, and you know that crude remains the mainstay of the Nigerian economy as of now, even though a lot of us have been hammering on the need for diversification of the economy. Because once our earnings from oil revenue drops, naturally our external reserve will also drop, take a hit. Yes, and once that happens,
does it have it
will have other adverse consequences on the economy,
like devaluating the naira? Or
yeah, it will lead to devaluation of the naira. It will also lead to apprehensions by foreign investors, and of course even local investors, because naturally your foreign reserve is like an index for level of confidence that investors repose on your economy.
Okay, but in such precarious situations, what's the economic blueprint to go about in order to avoid all of these hitches you just raised?
as of now, it depends on whatever savings we have had. What's the cushion that we had during when the going was good, when there was surplus based on our budget? What was the level of savings? How far did we go about boosting our external reserve?
Okay.
All right. So if that is not there, the only thing I see government doing as of now is to provide what we call stimulus to the exchange rate, which basically means that the central bank will have to pump in money to support the value of the naira vis-a-vis the dollar. Yes.
So that could be the last resort.
As of now, that's what we have on the table.
Okay, let's look at the overall plans in terms of the federal government, like the business activities that this Edo Sports Festival will be having, the National Sports Festival being hosted by Edo State. Do you see, like some are saying that, well, it should be postponed, but the state government, the federal government did say there's no plan to postpone it. Do you see that as affecting in any way the economy in Edo State?
Thank you very much. If Edo State is able to go ahead and host the National Sports Festival, of course, it will tell positively on our economy. Okay. It will even have plenty of what we call multiplier effect. A lot of persons will definitely come into the states and they will, of course, spend money. There will be a lot of businesses, even the people selling pure water and arranging other ancillary services to benefit. In the
basic threat of spreading the coronavirus.
As of now, excuse me, the decision has not been taken as to whether or not to postpone the.
No, the federal government did say that they don't have any plan to postpone it. There's no going back. It's coming. So let me
say if the spread. Okay, assuming the virus.
But for now, we just have one first case.
Of course, there's a period of incubation, like we were told in the previous section, that you have about 1 to 14 days period of incubation. If from now to the National Sports Festival, of course, God forbid you begin.
No report is recorded in any hospital.
The federal government will have to think twice because safety, health is of critical importance.
Okay, there is a popular saying that health is wealth. Let me quickly say that the outbreak of the COVID-19 is a call for us to overhaul our health system. The reason why Nigerians are saying postpone it is because they don't have confidence in our health system. You don't see, this country, like I always say, we try to handle the solution from the surface without going to the roots.
Okay.
That is primarily our problem. You check out on the budget that is allotted to our health sector. It has always been between 3 to 5% against the 15% that the UN advocated for. It has always been between 3 to 5%, except maybe with the outbreak of the coronavirus, there is now a boost or sudden fund so that it can be combated. Now, where will the boost come from? I'm just saying that because,
if
there is, because, when there is an emergency, that's an opportunity for politicians to bring more reasons to borrow.
Yes.
That's the reason they bring more reasons to borrow so that to whip up sympathy. And at the end of the day, what they are borrowing for, we don't see it. That has always been my problem. Okay. Now, like I was saying, it shows that we need to go back to the drawing board when it comes to health. Currently, we are still seen as one of the weak nations in terms of our health sectors. It shows that, for example, our health sector is greatly underfunded, and you will see the quality of health services. There are some equipment you will lament that at this time we don't have, even in Central Hospital. Some of our hospitals around, you will be shocked. Yet, we have a system where we have so many banks that prefer to travel outside for healthcare, even though the president has said everybody should be getting healthcare now.
And there's also the need to increase the bed spaces in the isolation center at Stella Obasanjo Hospital in case there is issues about this outbreak.
Yeah, it gets down to how can you say 12?
He was saying in such exigencies, the National Assembly can.
I was shocked.
Can approve extra budgetary spending. Yes, okay. That was why I said.
Can approve extra budgetary spending.
Yes, if there is need for.
Where will the extra money come from? Because it's assumed that the national budget, is already running deficit. So how is that working? How will that work out economically in terms of boosting that?
Traditionally, we have always had to borrow in Nigeria. That's the sad reality. Yes, that's the sad reality that we find ourselves.
Okay, back to the subject.
Like I was saying, when the doctor was saying the state government have made enough, this and that, I was expecting to hear a fantastic news, only to hear that 12 beds. And he said enough. In the outbreak of an emergency, with 12 beds, be enough.
We don't have outbreak in Edo State yet.
No, we don't. But when he said, when he said we have a strong measure,
go,
you see, you are not talking to people that didn't go to school. The average Nigerian there, especially Edolite, at least they have a secondary school education. 12 beds in case of an outbreak of emergency. For
cases that have been confirmed.
For cases that have been confirmed.
Yeah,
even that is still grossly inadequate.
What he was saying. Even that is cases that have been observed.
12 beds. Even that.
Restrict yourself to the house.
Who will monitor them in the house? Even that is still grossly inadequate. That's just the point I'm trying to establish. Okay. Now, my point is that we try to do what we call the emergency approach without tackling things fundamentally. You know, part of the things that advanced country does is they have what we call the helicopter view. They are able to see things ahead, project. Some countries of the world, with the outbreak of Ebola, have already prepared that there could be some more deadly disease that will come up after them. But even though we had a feel of that, our health sector is still underfunded. Just about 1 or 2 years ago, when Bigate was Nigeria, it was sad and is a reality that Nigeria is still one of the most hazardous nations to put to bed till date. Maternal mortality rate is still so high in this nation. I mean, as simple as putting to bed. I think that's one of the elementary of medical practices, although I'm not a doctor. Now, that's to show you that there is the need to declare a state of emergency in the health sector.
Okay. Let's look at this aspect again. It's still in the health sector, but there's need again for us to protect, like what the doctor was saying, the use of the face or nose mask. It's really for those who already have symptoms. Yes. But when it came up, when the news came, the outbreak in Nigeria, and a lot of persons having this nose mask went berserk, holding the prices. And now, what economic implication does that have? And what is the advantage of it to the citizens?
Anyway, it boils down to simple economics. Because there was the anticipation that people will begin to demand for face masks.
Yeah,
nose masks. People already have it, started holding or increasing the price so that they will make excess gain. But to me, I feel it's a form of wickedness, because at that point you should know that your fellow citizens, they need it, but because of our natural tendency to be very, very greedy, people started holding or even increasing the price.
Could that lead to inflation?
Of course, there will be inflation, at least in the price of nose masks.
Okay.
But thankfully, from what the doctor said, the face mask is only needed by those persons who have been confirmed and they have symptoms. In fact, he said, if you don't have symptoms, or if you are not a sufferer yet, you don't even need it. That if you use it, it even increase your chances of contracting the virus. So maybe on the basis of that, the demand for it will subside and the price will stabilize.
Okay. In the overall, what's your final take in terms of advice to government, in terms of keeping the economy intact in spite of this scare?
My advice to government basically is that going forward, they should diversify the economy. We cannot emphasize enough on that, because of course government have other sources of revenue, like we have the value-added tax that my friend talked about. We have the custom duties, and of course we have the company income tax. Of course, if government is able to diversify the economy such that our agricultural sector is given the life boost that it requires, the issue of being jittery anytime there is a glut in oil price will be a thing of the past. Okay, I think that should be our goal. Okay,
but if you are saying that, will that not be a little away from the from reality, from realistic records? Because at present, the federal government is doing a lot in terms of the diversification strategy. In the rice production, for instance, and in the palm oil production, like in those states where it received huge billions of naira to focus on this oil palm projects. Don't you think the federal government is already doing something in that direction?
On the news, the government seems to be doing so much, but it is implementation.
It has to trickle down.
Yes, it is implementation that we have issues with. What is the reality on ground? Edo State, of course, we are very viable in terms of palm produce, for instance, but have we really been able to harness those low-hanging fruits?
Okay, but again, don't you think that what we are looking for now in terms of the benefits that will come out from it don't you think that, again, is going to still take some time, which Nigerians should be patient to experience?
It will take some time. That is, even if we decide to actually invest and then implement and follow up. It's one thing for government to just say, okay, money have been approved. It's another thing for there to be a follow-up, for there to be implementation.
Okay, you seem not to have faith in the present government in doing that.
Yes.
Is that the story?
It's based on my experience with government over the years.
Okay.
You know, government can always say something largely to boost their reputation, their profile.
All right. Let me say.
You have to take it with a pinch of salt.
Let me say. How will you have confidence? How will you have confidence in a government that talk on news? Then there are people with guns in the bush ready to kill the farmers. We are not being realistic. Go to farm, there is a boost in agriculture, there is no security in the bush. And none one of those persons are being tried. So, just a few days ago, I was hearing what's going on in Obia. They were crying and lamenting in your local program, Wasunu. And all over the country, it's not a lie, it's been on media, we have discussed it on this platform. You are doing so much in agriculture, you are doing so much, there are people killing the farmers, the people that will make the farmers.
Is that not also a current call for community policing, which
of course is
still at the front?
It's long overdue. I don't see why they are resisting that. You know, because the point I'm trying to say is that in this country, we are not serious about anything. We just want to speak English and tell the people and politicize everything. When you say the truth, they say you belong to a political party. They have given you money. That's how it is. How can diversification to agriculture ever work when there is no security? No, there cannot be economic stability without first tackling your security problem. How can there ever be sanity in the health sector when 60 to 70% fine art of our young medical graduates leave the country to practice elsewhere?
Okay, thank you.
Drain is already telling on our health sector.
Okay, thank you, Osage Godson, for making it through on the show. Big thanks, Dr. Nusa Hari Ikpamosa. I think I have to do a handshake.
It's my pleasure.
To do that.
Be careful.
Extend it
Be
to
careful.
You.
I'm not shaking anybody for that.
Well, this is where we call it a wrap on the discussion segment for today. Is the TMI. Don't you go away.